Okay, so now we got the Flex project set up. We got our Flex clips all situated and organized, all the clips in a frame view mode. The music is by itself here as a singular file. And here's another little thing that you can do. It just helps make this a little more interesting. At the top here, these are all looking the same, all this grayness. So I'm going to click on Flex Music. I'm going to right click here in the middle. Remember the contextual menus? There's something here called Set Background Color. So I'm going to pick this purple. I'm going to go to Clips and right click here on the background and pick a different color. Let's go this color, wherever that is. I don't like that. Let's do another one. Let's go to the one next to it. There we go. Tan brown. All right. And then finally, cuts will get its own separate color. So it's just little things you can do to make it maybe a little more interesting, so that the clips are up here. I can see the cuts are green and the music is this kind of purple thing. So, okay. So the color extends to the tabs up here. If you have an older version of Media Composer, it may not have this function to be able to include the tabs as part of the bin. It just makes it stand out a little bit more. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is click on Music, load that cue up, and then hit B, bring that down. The first thing we do, and now I'm going to put this into my cuts bin, not my music bin, but my cuts bin, and it's going to create a sequence. Now, in this case, the music had video, which is actually nothing, so that's here nor there. And before I forget, I'm going to click on the cuts bin, change this untitled sequence to flex underscore cut 1, and then put my name. All right. I just like to do that, get that out of the way so that there's no confusion later. I don't want a bunch of untitled things in my bins. Okay, so it's 46:05, and when I hit the play button, so it's this song, which roughly is, okay, it goes just about for 5 seconds or so. Now, this is the thing that when I'm music, it's nice to see the waveforms, so I can see where the notes are, see where the gaps are, and whatnot. So right now, this timeline does not show it. To have it show the waveform, there's a secret little button. And it's really hard to see because it's just right here, right after these green numbers, timecode display. There's a little arrow that says Track Control Panel. I click on that, and it opens up a track control panel. And in this panel, and this again, this is for audio, I click on this first icon on A1, click on the same button on A2. So now I can see the waveforms. And the most important thing is that I can see certain notes and beats and all that. So at the very beginning, notice there's a huge gap before the music starts. In fact, it's, well, okay, huge to me is in this case about half a second. Okay, so I'm going to mark an out here, and then go to the first frame, mark an in, and I'm going to just hit X, and it pulls it up. So as soon as I hit play, the music starts. Now here's the interesting thing. So right in here, the music hits a stop. I'm going to expand this timeline, zoom in on it. The keystroke, I showed you how you can grab this little scale bar here and drag it to the right, and it'll increase it. And usually you want to put the playhead right around the area where you want it to be focused on, the enlargement. So the other way to do is hold Command, there must be a keystroke, and on the keyboards it'll be Command right bracket. Left Command left bracket collapses it. Okay, so there it is. And you can see right in here, so a waveform, basically all these like dark areas, it are little spiky things, and I can zoom in on this even more, and you really get down to some really nitty-gritty stuff here. Okay, so it doesn't need to go that far for what we're doing on this project. Okay, so I'll leave about there. So whenever you see a big fat furry section, that means there's a lot more music there versus this real thin line where there's absolutely no sound there. So here we go. I'll play from here. So the little hit of the drum, there's the hit. And then it fades, there's a gap, and there's one more clip here. Okay. What this is called is, those who know about drums and drum sets, that it's a hi-hat where he's hitting the two cymbals that are clamped together like clamshells, and he has his foot down so they're closed, and then he hits them and gives it this little hi-hat sound. Okay, and then starts up again. So you can see that. You can see the gaps, and you can see the actual beats. So at the end, you can see it goes and fades out. Okay, so that's where it pretty much ends, right around there, about 45:04, let's just say. Okay, so that's just setting up the music track. This becomes your cutting script to your cut. You're cutting to music, so be aware of the beats and all that. Okay, so I'm done with the music. I'm pretty much done with the cuts because there's only that one. And then here comes the rest of the work is with all this stuff. So for starters, how does one start editing picture now? So what I'm going to do is double click on the flex running, has no number. It's a shot of the night sky. I'm going to hit play. The camera tilts down and reviews the flex car. Okay, so I'm going to go to the first frame. I kind of like that. It's my opening shot. And so I'm going to now mark an in on that frame. So there's 4 possible points. We can mark an in, and I want to be very specific that as soon as I can see the Ford logo, I can mark an out. This tells me that the duration for this edit will only extend from the first frame and it'll stop right there. Okay, so then that's an in and out, which is based on duration of the source image. On the timeline, I can also put an in at the first note. And maybe I want to go all the way down to that first drum hit. That goes to there. Now, I can say, well, how much of a shot do I need to fill that up? If I want one shot to fill that up, with that selected, I can look up here and I need the duration center count. It tells me, center duration, I should say. It's 4 seconds and 25 frames. If I click on the image of this car, the tilt down, it will show me that it's only 2 seconds and 16 frames. So whatever is selected, the duration window will reflect. If there is an in and out mark, it will give the duration between those 2 marks. So obviously the hole that I've picked up here that I want to fill with the picture is longer than the shot. So, well, okay, maybe I'll ignore this and just go with the music cut. If I were to make an edit now, we'll default to the duration of timeline. So the timeline gets priority, regardless of how long the source clip mark is. So, okay, those who know Premiere, you have to ask you this question: which one do you rather have? In Avid, they just tell you, okay, I'm going to undo that. If I remove the output on the timeline, and that is the letter F below the letter R, and then hit B again, I have an in point, and so now it's an open door because there's no out on the timeline. There is an out on the source, so when I hit B, it will only load as much as right there to the Ford logo. So it'll take the duration, if you have a duration set on the source, and you want that to be very specific, then mark an in and out on that, and just make either an in or an out on the timeline. So all you need basically is 3 out of the 4. An in and out on either the timeline. If you do that, then all you need is, say, an in point on the source. If you have very specific, and in this case, we're doing it to the music, so that makes sense. Now, if you're doing it based on picture, then I will only either mark an in or an out on the timeline. The in is where the shot starts, the out is where it ends. If you're more concerned about where it finishes, then use mark an out versus an in. Now, when I made the edit, here's a problem over here on the timeline. I hit play, and the music's gone. Like, what happened? Oh, when I brought the shot in, it wiped out the music underneath. Well, that's not good. I need the music underneath all the time. I'm Command Z, undo that. All right. And in this case, I want the shot to last the duration to that first drum hit. So in Avid, and this is the hardest thing to remember because I still make the mistake, what we have here are two V1s, two A1s, and two A2s. What these represent is the video tracks and audio tracks. Now on the left column here is whatever is in the source window, your stuff that you're bringing in. Now in this case, there's a picture of the car, but even though there's A1 and A2 tracks, there's actually no sound there. So essentially, that would be editing nothing onto something. And when you do that, you're essentially erasing what was there already laid down. So you got to be careful about that. So the thing about Avid is that you got to look at all these panels all the time before you make an edit or before you make a deletion. The fact that on the right vertical column is the V1, A1, A2, that is the timeline. So we're always moving from left to right, from the left side to the right side. So whatever is active will be part of the edit. So to make the audio inactive, because it would wipe out that sound, I'm going to turn off the A1 and the A2 by clicking on it. So now A1 and A2 are inactive. What is active is at the top is the V1. So this will be a picture-only edit. V1 goes across to V1. If the A1 and A2 are turned off, then nothing will go across. So here's the edit. I just cut the car over, and there it is. Video only. The music stays there where it's supposed to be. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. On that hit, drum hit right here, I'm going to mark a new in, and I'm going to mark an out, roughly where the old out was. Now I want a different shot on that drum hit. I want a tight close-up because I got a nice wide shot here, so it doesn't really matter what I actually get. Let's just say I'll cut to this Ford logo. Okay, we don't need much. So I got in and out on the timeline. I'm marking in on the source image, and I just hit B. I don't worry about the sound going away because I've turned off the A1 on the right side. Okay, there it is. And then right here, I'm going to add another shot for this hi-hat, the beats. So what I'm doing is I'm picking the point right before the note. I don't try to pick it right on the note because it'll be late then. I'm going to lead it by at least a frame or so. And let's see, I got that shot there. And get just this movement of the seat, close-up shot. I'm not really trying to tell a story per se. I'm just... Okay. And then I'm marking in and out. I'm going to grab tail light. And then finally, I'm going to just get another shot here. And let's have this car running, moving. Okay, so here we go. So I put shots for each of the beats and then one to get out on. Back up a little bit. Okay, one more time. Okay, there we go. I kind of like that. All right, so it's a combination of starting with wide shot, going close-ups, tight details, and then come back out again on wide. Now, the problem with this shot, it's just darn too slow. In fact, I'm going to take it all the way to highway. So again, with my button, with this, what I call my white butterfly sitting right here, I'm going to drag this all the way down to about highway here. Okay, we'll pick this back up on the next one. So we got this started, and next thing we'll deal with is speed controls.